Have you ever wondered how life can change in an instant? I didn't believe it could happen. Then it happened to me. My family is weird, and not in a good way, and that is the problem. I'm Wren Wakefield, 21, the youngest child of Abraham and Lucy Wakefield. There's 3 kids. The oldest is my brother Seward, who is 8 years older. Next is my sister, Mindy, who is 6 years older. And finally me, Renfield, the youngest. I hate that name. We live in Dead Man's Butte, Nevada, a small town about an hour's north of Vegas. It's late September. Mom and Dad were into weird things before all of us kids were born. Both were emo goths back in the day, partied very hard, and had a revolving door marriage. Take a look at their scrapbook. They both had multiple lovers even after they were married. That changed when Mom got pregnant with Seward. They began to clean up their life. They closed their open marriage and became completely monogamous. Grandpa demanded a blood test to see who Seward's real father was. It turned out it was Dad. Grandpa did that for the rest of us too. And our parents, our mom and Dad. It's Sunday evening, which means it's also Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My parents' place is a cluttered religious mishmash. Dozens of half-burnt holy candles are everywhere. Mom's Shrine of Saints had a couple hundred saint pins and saint cards and votive candles and crosses and crucifixes and special cards with the Pope's autograph and dozens of religious books. It also had a picture of Grandma and Grandpa. God rest their souls. More religious paraphernalia crowded the walls and every surface of every room in the house and throughout the yard. Soft hymns played in the background. I reread the text from Chance, my boyfriend. Good luck telling your parents. I'm here if you need me. Why do you have a little birdie on your shoulder? My 4-year-old niece, Annabelle Hammond, asked me. Well, Princess Bluebird, I said, it's a wren, and from now on you can call me Uncle Wren. I just got it. And displayed my new tattoo. The tattoo was so new it still had plastic taped over it, and it stung a little. Do you like it? I asked. Mommy, I want a bluebird on my shoulder, my niece said to her mom, Mindy Hammond, my sister, sitting across the dinner table from us. Her husband is Taylor Hammond, a quiet guy that can never stand up to my family. He was on his 2nd glass of wine while I had barely touched mine. No, dear, Mindy said, and then she looked at me, annoyed. Renfield, nobody wants to see your tattoos. Can't you put a jacket on? You're showing off your pits at the dinner table. That's so disgusting. Sometimes it's better to simply ignore my family. I shrugged and took a dollop of mashed potatoes and made a little island on my niece's plate. More, please, Annabelle said, as I made a second lumpy crater of mashed potatoes on her plate. I poured gravy all over it and then topped it off with toddler-sized pieces of roast beef. She giggled when the gravy escaped from one of the mashed potato craters and covered her plate. Want more? I asked. My niece dove into the mess with her spoon, shoveled it into her mouth, and giggled. I love you, Uncle Wren. Look. She stuck her tongue out with a wad of gravy and mashed potatoes on it. A little ribbon of gravy dripped down her chin. I pretended to be horrified. She laughed. I laughed. Can I have more potatoes? She asked. Mom snarkily said, Manners, young lady. Renfield, you should be ashamed of yourself. Mindy, my sister, slapped the table and screamed, Annabelle, stop it. Good girls keep their mouths closed when they are chewing. If you make a mess again, I will give you a 15-minute timeout and you will miss dinner. Say you're sorry right now. My niece closed her mouth and stared at her gravy-filled plate. Big tears welled at her eyes. She started crying. Mommy, please don't make me sit in the chair. I'm sorry I was bad. Lay off, guys, and stop overreacting, I said. She's only 4 years old. Since you're... My sister paused. Was she about to say gay? Nobody in this room knew my secret. except her. She'd caught me and my high school boyfriend kissing one night. Mindy restarted. Renfield, since you won't ever have children, keep your mouth shut. You're an idiot. Renfield will someday bless us with a baby, Mom said. Mindy turned to me and said in a slightly nasally, sarcastic voice, "Pass the mashed potatoes, Renfield." Her fake smile was bright and innocent. I'm sure she practiced that one in the mirror. I looked at her, tired of her games, and said, "I've already told you that I hate that name. The potatoes are next to you. Get them yourself." This Sunday night dinner was turning out about normal. The pot roast was on the table. The gravy was in a floury gravy pitcher that Mom had gotten from eBay. Mashed potatoes were in a huge bowl marketed by some TV chef, and to top it off, a serving tray shaped like a rooster held a ton of green bean and mushroom soup casserole. The fresh bread, butter, and raspberry jam were on regular plates. The bowls of angel food layered with chopped strawberries and vanilla ice cream were in the fridge. A cozy home-cooked meal. The feast before they tortured the youngest son, just like every Sunday night family meal. Why do I even come? Because Mom demanded the whole family sit down together every week and would not take no for an answer. Nobody throws a tantrum like a 50-year-old mom not getting her own way. Sunday night dinner included Mom and Dad, my sister Mindy, and her husband Taylor, their daughter Annabelle, and me. My older brother, Seward, was in the military and he seldom came home. The last time was to attend my high school graduation. I'm 21 now. Renfield is a perfectly lovely name, Mom said. If you're psycho and like to eat bugs, I said. Mindy raised her eyebrows and smirked. Renfield, I told you to pass the mashed potatoes, or should I mention? She left the rest of the sentence hanging, but I knew what she meant. She'd tell my family that I was gay if I didn't do everything she wanted. I go by Ren, spelled like the bird, with a W, not Renfield. When my parents were in their emo goth stage, they named their children after characters in their favorite book, Dracula by Bram Stoker. Then Mom and Dad got addicted to religion. My parents did a complete 180. To Grandma and Grandpa's delight, Mom and Dad went hardcore, Bible-thumping, ultra-religious. My very, very religiously obsessed family are scarier than the vampire in the book. Dad demanded twice daily family prayers and family Bible reading when we grew up, and it hasn't changed since I moved out. He also works in the front office of the diocese. Mom directed catechism classes for potential converts every Sunday and Tuesday, and writes a new member newsletter. She also knew her Bible frontwards and backwards and had even learned Latin to read the New Testament in its original language. She even recited her twice daily rosary in Latin and went to morning mass 7 days a week. As far back as I can remember, my parents required 30 minutes of Bible study daily and made it an hour if my showers lasted longer than 5 minutes. Yes, Mom set the timer every time. What's even worse, before I moved out, my parents insisted on chaperoning every date. Maybe that's why I didn't have many back in high school. Maybe that's why Seward enlisted right after high school and went to career Navy. He's on an aircraft carrier somewhere. All through school, we were known as the goody-goodies, and kids teased us and bullied us mercilessly. Our parents' response? Forgive them. That's kind of hard when you're getting your head shoved down a toilet for a swirly. Guess how I celebrated my 21st birthday last week? My parents forced me to go to a special confession and then to Mass. Only my boyfriend gave me a present, the key to our new house. My parents are so busy spouting their religion that I can't even talk to them without them breaking into scripture. To keep the peace at the family dinner, I passed the mashed potatoes, ignoring my sister's holier-than-thou smirk. You're 21 now, Renfield, Mom said. Here it comes, just like every weekend, and I tightened my stomach muscles as if I were preparing for a fight. This was so annoying. Mom continued, "It's past time when you should have been married. I don't know what Seward's problem is, but your sister has given us a darling grandchild. It's your turn." I cut the meat on my niece's plate into smaller pieces. "I don't have time," I muttered non-committally. "Who did you ask out last night?" Dad asked. "I didn't," I started to say, trying to explain about the paper due this week, but Dad interrupted. "What's wrong with you?" Dad yelled. "Your mom and I were married as soon as we graduated high school." "My brother," my sister sweetly said, "would have a better time getting a date if he didn't always wear black and shaved and didn't have tattoos and took out the earrings. I mean this nicely, but he looks ugly. I mean, he was never cute to begin with, but he's worse now. I can't think of any girl that would even look at him." "Mindy, you are right," Mom said. "His hair looks like a hornet's nest. Renfield, I will cut your hair before you leave tonight." "Renfield," Dad said, "how many times must I tell you that it's your duty to marry a nice, righteous girl and continue the family name? Look at the way you're dressed." The little dam that kept back my emotions broke. I'd had enough of their crap. I snapped, "Answer me this, Dad. When do I have time to date? I work full-time from 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Take classes from 3 to 7 on weekdays. Do homework from 8 to whenever I get done every weeknight. Sing in the Saturday night mass choir every other week. Attend noon mass on Sunday. Then I have choir practice Sunday morning and on Wednesdays. You make me go to confession once a month, which usually requires waiting in line for an hour. Then we have the 2-hour obligatory family dinner every Sunday that turns into a non-stop rag session about my life. If I'm lucky, I get to go home and do my laundry right after, unless Mom suggests we bond as a family and watch a movie for another 2 hours. Whoops, dirty clothes for another week. Then, if it's a holiday, I have even more choir practices. You guys still demand 30 minutes a day Bible study, and if Mom thinks I might have done something inappropriate, she demands an hour of Bible study. Then Mindy demands I come over and babysit and clean her house. Now you want me to date? When? There's no pleasing you. I give up. From now on, I'm living my own life. F all of you." Dad cleared his throat and brutally yelled, "I will not allow that kind of language under my roof. Apologize to your mom right now. You are acting like a brat." Mom had this weird look on her face like she'd eaten a lemon, and she said, "Renfield, have you done something sinful, and that's why you don't want to live a righteous life?" I rolled my eyes, got up from my seat, and said, "Mom, you are insane. This is the last time I try talking to my effing family. I had something important I wanted to tell you, but never mind. Effectively now, I quit the choir, I quit Mass, I quit Bible study, I quit family dinners, I don't babysit anymore, and Mindy, clean your own damn house. I quit." My sister gave a weird little smile and said, "Renfield is only acting like this because..." I screamed, "Go ahead and tell them I'm gay. I don't care anymore. I'm tired of being blackmailed." "You're what?" Mom said. "I'm gay, Mom," I yelled. "Are you satisfied now? I will never live up to your perfect ideal for a son. I will always be the family disappointment. And do you know what? I'm proud of it." Mom stood up and slapped me. "I refuse to let you be gay. I won't let you." My hand on my stinging cheek, I yelled, "I'm so sick of this family. You're nothing but effing spineless goody-goody hypocrites who let every bully pick on me." "Young man," Dad said, "sit down before you earn a spanking." "I'm 21, Dad, not effing 8, I yelled. "Why do I even bother talking to you, to any of you? You are so caught up in your 'I'm more righteous than you are' crap that none of you ever take the time to listen." I walked out of the dining room and into the living room. "Your behavior is intolerable," Dad yelled and slammed to his feet. "Get back to the table this instant. How dare you humiliate your mother, swearing in front of your niece? You will never use such language again. Understood? I demand that you apologize to all of us." "Or what?" I yelled. You'll effing hit me again? Effing ground me? Send me to my effing room without any effing supper? What was your favorite punishment? 2 hours of reading the Bible and then confessing to Father Winchester? Let's call the good father, Mom said. Maybe he can save our son from the grip of sin. Everyone, Dad yelled, join hands and let's pray the Our Father for Renfield's soul. F you, Mom. F you, Dad. F all of you. I've known I was gay for the last 10 years, and all your precious religion could do was make me feel guilty for existing. Why don't you apologize for making me afraid to talk to you? Why don't you apologize for making me the inferior to your superiority? Why don't you apologize for being so busy with your church that you never listened when I tried to tell you? Why don't you apologize for twisting me up inside so bad I had to find a therapist? Mom and Dad, effing winner of the Parents of the Year award. Face it, you only love people who are exactly like you. My unforgivable sins? I'm gay, and I won't put up with your bullcrap anymore. Why do you think I never told you I was gay? Because every time I tried, you were too busy being righteous. I picked up my backpack and slung it on my back. Renfield Isaac Wakefield, Dad yelled. I can't believe the shame you have brought your family, and to yell at your own mother. You will obey your father this instant. Get down on your knees and beg our forgiveness. I hate that name. You are the ones who should be begging my forgiveness, and you know what? I won't give it, I yelled. So you want to be gay? I hope you're proud of yourself, Mom screamed. I am, because I actually like myself. It's time for all of you to stop pretending you're saints and look in the mirror. You won't like what you see. I said, goodbye forever. I walked out the door and to the bus stop. Wow, that blew up fast. I was angry and frustrated and a little scared about what they would do, and oddly relieved. Was I free? Doubtful. Sunday evening bus service isn't as efficient as weekdays. Catching the first bus available, I rode it to my transfer point and then to my apartment. On the way, I got a single text from Dad. We are very disappointed in you. You will immediately spend the next hour begging the Lord's forgiveness and then write an apology to your mother. I am making an appointment for you with Father Winchester for 8 o'clock tonight. I will pick you up myself and make sure you attend. We will bring you back to the path of righteousness by force if necessary. I texted back. If I see you at my door, I will file harassment charges and get a restraining order. Stay the hell away from me. Whoever said that families are the foundation of society hadn't lived with mine. When I got to my apartment, the first thing I did was hug my boyfriend, Chance Summers, the most beautiful man I had ever seen. Blonde, sparkling blue eyes, an inch taller than me. I loved when he looked at me, because no other man could make me feel so desirable. His smile was a dream, and I loved it when he whispered softly in my ear. With Chance, I could relax and be me. He held me, but it took a minute before I could tell him what had happened. I showed him the text. Chance whispered, seconds away from nibbling on my ear. Good thing I love your sexy butt. I think I'll stick around for a little while longer. How long? I whispered back. At least, he began, but I kissed him. 30 minutes later, Dad showed up at my door. When I opened the door, I had my camera ready and was filming away. Chance too. I said, just so you know, I'm streaming our conversation to the cloud and will use this as evidence. I've also screenshot our texts and have saved them in my email account. Those will be evidence as well. Our little dinner conversation, I recorded it, and that is already in the cloud. The last part was a bluff. I should have recorded it, but when I was on the bus, I did write down what I remembered. Renfield, Dad said, we are doing what's best for you, and you will obey me. Shut up, Dad, I said, and let me introduce you to my fiancé, Chance. That was what I was going to tell you at dinner tonight. We're getting married, and I wanted to invite my loving parents to the wedding. But like every other time I tried to talk to you, your religion got in the way. Renfield, Dad yelled, I won't allow this. I hate that name, I said. Don't ever use it again. Renfield, listen to me, Dad yelled. "You will never call me that again," I screamed. "Renfield," Dad yelled, "you're getting married? To a man?" "Yes, Dad," I said. "He's giving me something you and the rest of the family are incapable of. Love. He also listens. Get out of our apartment." Dad yelled, "I won't allow this." "Get out," I yelled back. "As your father, you will," Dad began. Once again, I said, "You never listen. I'm done with your so-called righteousness. Leave me and my fiancée alone, or I will call the police." Dad raised his hand as if to slap me, but held it still, and he said, "I'm your father and you will obey me. Come with me, now. You are going to talk to the priest." "You have never loved me," I said. "Leave, before I call the cops." Dad drew himself up to his full height and said, "If you continue this path and refuse to talk to the priest, and you choose to marry this man, I will have no choice but to remove you from my will. You will no longer be part of my family. You will be dead to us." I guess Dad didn't believe me. I dialed 911 and said, "My name is Ren Wakefield, and I'm gay. My father's harassing me and my fiancée and threatening us. We need help." "Put him on the phone, please," the operator said. I couldn't hear the conversation, but when Dad handed me back my phone, Dad screamed, "I will disinherit you. Don't come begging to me if you want money. You are not part of the family." He left without a word. It was petty and childish, but it only took a second to email the videos to my account and upload them to Facebook. Chance and I hugged. I pulled a couple of Pepsis out of the fridge, hoping Chance and I could relax. I must have been delusional. "Good thing I love you. I think I'll stick around for a little while," Chance whispered. "How long?" I whispered back. "At least a year or two. Do you want to leave tonight instead of tomorrow?" Chance asked. With his help, I packed my clothes in a couple of bags while he packed the last of the food in a box. And we left. I'd already arranged with my manager to let the movers collect my furniture and some boxes Tuesday. Within minutes, Chance and I were long gone. A year later, we were enjoying the June sun and waves of the Atlantic Ocean, sitting on the beach about halfway between Kill Devil Hills and Kitty Hawk. Those are places on the outer banks of North Carolina. Chance and I, when we were done with our honeymoon, rented one of the stilt houses on the beach, and we liked the ocean so much we never stopped living here. True, it is a 10-minute drive to the nearest convenience store and gas station, and 30 to the nearest supermarket. But Amazon delivers here just fine, and our internet connection is superb. We both finished our degrees. Chance had a degree in finance and worked remotely as a stockbroker. Me, I don't make quite as much as he does. I'm a computer artist who works remotely with CGI effects for nightlife productions. Mostly it's for small independent movies. Chance has his team he works with. I'm part of a team too. The best part about this, we can sit on our deck, watch the ocean, and sip daiquiris anytime we want. I don't mean to boast, but I've become pretty good at making them, and my favorite are lime daiquiris. Chance loves the strawberry ones. Watermelon daiquiris makes us horny. Enough about that. Life can change in an instant. I hadn't spoken to my family in a year, though both Chance and I spoke with his family weekly. They accepted me as a second son, especially after I married Chance. I'm officially Ren Summers. That's Ren, like the bird, with a W. A little before noon, my phone rang. That's not unusual. I get calls from my team all the time. This call was unusual. "I'm looking for Renfield Wakefield, formerly of Las Vegas," a man said. I put the call on speaker so Chance could hear. "May I ask who's calling?" "Forgive me," he said. "I should have introduced myself. I am Father Winchester, and I've known Renfield and the Wakefield family for many years. It's urgent that I speak with him. It involves CPS." I glanced at Chance, and he said, "Child Protective Services? We don't have any children." "Who am I speaking to?" Father Winchester asked. "Some introductions," I said. "I used to be Renfield Wakefield, but when I married my husband, I changed my name to Ren Summers. That's Ren, like the bird, with a W. I've never liked the name Renfield. You're on speakerphone, and the other person here is my husband, Chance Summers. We've been married almost a year. An odd clicking sounded in the background. I guess Father Winchester was updating something on his computer. I'd spoken to him many times over the years, even confessed that I was gay. For the next few months after that, I was afraid he'd tell my parents, but he never did. Ren, I'm glad you found happiness. Congratulations, Mr. and Mr. Summers, but it's not under ideal circumstances. I'll get to the point. It has been determined that the home environment for your niece, Annabelle Hammond, is not adequate. Did something happen? Chance asked. It did, Father Winchester said, and he explained. Evidently, we left Vegas just before the hurricane. My family were no longer seen as pillars of society, and the bishop removed Mom as the new member catechism instructor, and Dad lost his job at the diocese. Taylor divorced Mindy and won full custody of Annabelle. He couldn't cope as a single dad, began seriously drinking, lost his job, was months behind on his bills, and his neighbors called CPS when Annabelle was found playing outside, alone and dirty and hungry. Turns out that Mindy had disappeared with a boyfriend and could not be contacted. CPS deemed that Annabelle be removed from that situation, and since Father Winchester knew the family, he volunteered to find a placement to keep Annabelle out of foster care. As uncle to Annabelle, he said, they are asking if you would be willing to assume care. It's not exactly foster care, but more of a short-term guardianship that could evolve into long-term placement. Chance held my hand and said, I take it we are her last hope? You do realize we live in North Carolina, right? Father Winchester typed something else into his computer before saying, Now I do. Seward Wakefield is a naval officer and unable to care for a child at this time. If you can't care for Annabelle, she'll be placed in foster care. Chance gripped my hand and whispered, Good thing I love you. I think we can do this for a little while. We'll move the stuff out of our office, order another bed, paint her room pink, and buy lots of stuffed animals. Easy peasy, right? I leaned in and kissed my husband before I said, Father, we'll do it. We need a timeline. Father Winchester made some more typing sounds before he said, I have her on standby to Raleigh-Durham Airport, with arrival tomorrow afternoon at 3:15 p.m. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. A tiny, terrified voice said, Uncle Ren, I don't have a mommy anymore, and Daddy's sick all the time. That broke my heart. Chance must have sensed something because suddenly his arms were about me. He gave me strength because I forced myself cheerful and said, Don't worry, Bluebird. You've got me. You remembered me, her tiny voice said. Us birds have to stick together, I said. You're going to love it here because we live on the beach, and wait until you meet my husband. You have some homework. What color are we going to paint your room? Due to traffic, it was almost a 5-hour drive to Raleigh-Durham International, 45 minutes to collect my niece, and Chance had to drive us home because Annabelle wouldn't let go of me. I made sure to wear something sleeveless so she could see the Wren tattoo on my shoulder. She fell asleep in my arms. She woke in time for dinner, and we had chicken fingers and French fries and chocolate chip cookies. She took one look at Chance and said, You have yellow hair, like a canary. Then, Chance said, and dipped a fry in mustard, You may call me Uncle Canary. I made pictures on my computer of bluebirds, wrens, and canaries, which I turned into wall decals. Her pink room had 100 bluebirds, canaries, and wrens flying all over the walls. We found a child therapist to work with Annabelle, and a family therapist to teach me and Chance how to be parents. I knew parenting was complicated, but I never knew it was this stressful. We did the best we could, because Annabelle had learned to be secretive and had severe abandonment issues. We caught her many times sneaking food from the kitchen and hiding it in her closet. She even made a little bed on her closet floor. She often snuck into mine and Chance's room while we were asleep, dragging her little bed behind her, and slept on the floor next to our bed. She could not handle being alone. She didn't want to go to kindergarten, afraid we'd leave her. For the first week, either I or Chance had to stay for a little while. My brother Seward stopped by for a visit. He'd never married, and except for me, had cut contact with our family. He became Uncle Seagull, and I put a bunch of seagulls on Annabelle's wall. One day, Chance smiled at me and said, "Good thing I love you, Uncle Wren, because raising a kid is hard, but I think I'll stick around." "How long?" I asked. "Long enough," he whispered, and we locked the bedroom door behind us. Annabelle began to relax. I tried calling my sister. Nothing, and stared at my phone, hoping she would call, but she never did. Nobody in my family called. According to Father Winchester, they had vanished. We and our in-laws were my little Bluebird's only family. I added to my tattoo a design using the original Wren tattoo with a canary and a bluebird, with a stylized heart in the background, the most unique tattoo I've ever seen. A year after Annabelle came to live with us, we consulted a lawyer, and since her parents had abandoned her, Chance and I officially became her legal guardians. That summer, Seward came to visit us again, but he brought his fiancée, Catriona, a woman he met in Paris. She had an odd sense of humor and something funny about her smile. She and Annabelle hit it off, and she soon became Aunt Cuckoo. Catriona loved that and said it fit because she was a little cuckoo. For Annabelle's 8th birthday, we spent 2 weeks and drove the coastal roads down to Disney World, stopping at anything that looked interesting. We came back with an army of stuffed animals, sunburned noses, and about 10 million pictures which we sent to Seward and Catriona, and the in-laws. When Anna turned 9, Chance's investments skyrocketed, though we kept it silent. Neither Chance or I had to work ever again, but we loved our different jobs and kept working. That summer, Seward and Catriona surprised us. They'd gotten married. I added little cuckoos to the wall. My flock might be strange, but who else had bluebirds, canaries, seagulls, cuckoos, and wrens? That year, Nightlife Productions received a huge contract for a potential blockbuster sci-fi movie, Beyond. It was our job to design the starship and make a lot of external visuals, including a spacewalk scene, while the main actors had to battle aliens. It was our chance to make the big leagues. I loved it. The paycheck wasn't bad either. Chance took what I had earned, and our investments went suborbital. People knew I worked on the movie, but what we earned was none of their business. If they asked how much I made, I didn't lie. We bought the stilt house on the beach and paid off our loans. Like all kids, Annabelle never asked questions, but assumed we were making enough to pay the bills. We definitely were. To celebrate, we went down to Disney World again, but this time we brought Chance's parents, and Seward had leave, so we brought Catriona. We told them all about our investments, but swore them to secrecy. Our little girl had started to grow up because she stopped calling us Uncle Wren and Uncle Canary before her 10th birthday, informing us that she was too grown up for nicknames. Once again, we became Wren and Chance. I miss those days. She also surprised us. I caught her writing her name, but it wasn't Annabelle Hammond. It was Anna Summers, and it had a dozen little bluebirds and canaries and seagulls and cuckoos and wrens around it. Chance took a seat across the table and jokingly said, "Do you want to make it official? We could adopt you." "What would you think of that?" I asked. Anna looked at us with the most serious face I'd ever seen. "Mom won't ever come back, and Dad doesn't love me anymore. I want a real family with parents who love their kids." "Could you handle a family with 2 dads?" Chance asked. "Even if we adopt you," I said, "you can still call us uncles. I'm your uncle after all. Or you can keep using our first names. You don't have to call us Dad. Think about it for a month and let us know." The adoption became official on her 11th birthday, and our in-laws flew to North Carolina, and Seward and Catriona joined us by video call. I was Dad, and Chance was Daddy. My life kept changing. Look at all the names I've had. Renfield, Ren with an R, Ren with a W, Uncle Ren, and now Dad. When we were alone, Chance whispered, "Can you believe we are now fathers? Good thing I love you, because I'm thinking of sticking around for a while." "How long?" I whispered. Chance smiled, and I locked the bedroom door behind us. Beyond did pretty good at the box office, and Nightlife Productions got a contract for the special effects for another movie, a time-traveling romance called Never Enough Time for Love. Chance decided to start his own online brokerage. When Anna turned 12, I not only had to give her the talk, I had to learn all over again about the birds and the bees. Especially the bird side of things, if you take my drift. My first time walking into that aisle of the store, you know the one I'm talking about, the one men never visit, scared the socks off of me. I arranged a special session with the family therapist to figure out how to tell Anna about this. Chance's response? He raised his hands in surrender and said, "I'm a coward. You do it. I'll take us out for ice cream later." My reward? I embarrassed both me and Anna to giggles, and it became the most bizarre conversation we've ever had. Imagine a gay man teaching his adopted daughter about that. Later that night, Chance said, "I was so embarrassed for you. Good thing I love you, because you're worth sticking around for." "How long will you stick around?" I whispered. "Let's talk about that after ice cream." And Chance took all of us to the frozen yogurt shop. When I told the family therapist about what had happened, she couldn't stop laughing at me. She helped me to see the humor and said this would become a funny family story that would bring us all closer together. For the next week, whenever Anna looked at me, she laughed at me. Somehow things worked out. How do parents survive? We made our third trip to Disney World the following summer, and we hosted our in-laws and Seward and Catrion. Raising a kid isn't all fun and games, though. Chance's new brokerage was hemorrhaging money, and he couldn't figure out why. He spent nights on the computer going through charts and graphs and software code before he discovered the problem. One of his partners thought he could make secret withdrawals. He was wrong. Chance pressed charges, and the stress kept him up at night. Our family had its own issues. Anna was 14 when she refused to listen to us. We weren't her real parents, just glorified babysitters, so what did we know? Her grades slipped, she was on the phone non-stop with her girlfriends, and she crushed hard on a boy I don't think she ever talked to. Her mouth had 2 volume settings, loud and screaming. Her personality had 2 settings as well, angry and crying. Whenever she didn't get her own way, she screamed, "That's not fair," and locked herself in her bedroom and complained to her friends all night long. What had happened to our daughter? She refused to see the therapist, refused to go with Chance and I anywhere. She told us to our faces that we were frumpy, and if we set any kind of boundary, she got angry. She blew up one Saturday when we told her to be home by 9. 1 month after she turned 16, she blew through her allowance in microseconds and threw a tantrum when we told her that was all she got for the month. "I'm 16 and I'm grown up and I deserve the money," she screamed. "So you're ready to grow up? Then it's time to learn how," I said. Anna folded her arms and pouted. She yelled, "What do you mean?" "Let me teach you a lesson about life," Chance said. "You only deserve what you work for, nothing else. It's time for you to learn how to be independent. Let's start a savings account for college." She threw a bigger tantrum when we took her job hunting. Her first job was at the frozen yogurt shop. She complained that none of her friends had to work, and we were so poor that she was embarrassed to go out of the house, and what if her friends caught her working? She'd be humiliated. We taught her how to act polite to customers and to her boss, but I don't know if that ever stuck. Then she got her first paycheck. It must have seemed a fortune for a 16-year-old. None of her friends had a paycheck. None of her friends had as much money as she did. None of her friends were independent. Suddenly, her attitude changed. She had money. Chance was the money guru of the family, and he showed her that budgeting money is like doing laundry. If you don't take care of your money, pretty soon you're stinking broke. We helped her set up 2 savings accounts, one for college and one for her very own car, and the rest was hers to play with. She didn't have to know that Chance and I helped her college fund out, nor did she have to know that Chance invested the little fund in short-term stocks. When Anna was ready to go to college, the little fund would have grown up. Chance is really good at what he does. Anna surprised me for my birthday. I think she wanted to say sorry for acting how she did, but didn't know how to. We had a little party, and she unveiled the new living room. She had gone online and found movie posters of all the movies I had worked on. With Chance's help, they were framed and now hung in our living room. Nightlife Productions had even won an award for our work on Beyond, and even that was framed and it hung next to the movie poster. She gave me a card that simply said, "I love you, Dad," and it had a small drawing of a bluebird instead of a signature. I couldn't stop the waterworks. Over the next year, she worked hard, and with a little help from her dad's, she bought her own used car. Her life changed, and she became independent. During the summer, she got a second job and learned how to play with her money like Chance did with ours. Sometime before Anna turned 17, she dropped a bombshell at dinner. "Can you help me find my bio mom and dad?" she asked. "They divorced, and neither have called me since you were 5, I said. "What's brought this on?" Chance asked. She twirled her fork in her spaghetti and finally said, "You two were great dads, and I love our family, but something inside me wants to connect with my birth parents, my birth family. I want answers, but I don't know the questions. It's just something I need to do, but I can't explain it." A simple pain flooded my heart. Why was I sad all of a sudden? I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through my contacts, looking for a number that I hadn't called in years. I sent the number to Anna. "This is Father Winchester. He worked with CPS to help you come to me. He also knew your parents. If you're sure you want to do this, call him. Maybe he knows something about them." Anna's phone buzzed as she received my text. It took her 2 days before she decided to call him. He gave her some phone numbers and some names. Anna spent hours on social media typing names, examining profiles, searching through all the people who had the same names as her parents. She even called Seward, but he only had the same numbers I had and the same names Father Winchester had. Though my little Bluebird searched for months, it was a waste of time. Seward, Katrian, and the in-laws all came to Anna's high school graduation. Though we talked about another trip to Disney World, Anna went on a trip with her friends. The house seemed empty without her, and Chance was just as sad as me. Nightlife Productions had another movie project, and Chance's new business had stabilized, but our lives felt lonelier. Our little Bluebird was moving on with her life. Then life changed again. Anna came home from college with an idea. I couldn't tell you where that idea came from, because it wasn't like anything she had ever talked about. She wanted to form a company, the Bluebird Project, that made organic soaps with part of the proceeds going to a charity that helped a women's shelter, and she wanted our help to get it started. We helped her design a business proposal. Okay, Chance helped her because he's the numbers guru in the family. I made a 20-second video advertising a project that we put up on YouTube. Chance arranged for startup capital, and though she still lived in her old room, we'd converted part of the dining room into soap making. Our stilt house smelled of soap and odd things like lavender, thyme, honey, and something floral. It turns out that Anna started dating one of the guys helping her, Jacob. Fast forward, Anna was 20, and her little company wasn't so little. With all the money lessons she had learned from Chance, the Bluebird Project exploded into a real business. She had even found an old store in Mans Harbor they used as both a soap factory and a storefront. And Chance and I and her friends spent a weekend painting the place. Even Jacob was there. Small Business Digest named her Young Entrepreneur of the Year and awarded her with a $100,000 scholarship. Some reporters interviewed her and toured the Bluebird Project's simple facilities. It was a big party, and one of the state senators presented her with a giant check. We also helped her celebrate, and she introduced us as the best dads in the world. Dads? The reporter asked. Were you adopted? Anna must have expected the question because she smoothly answered, My mom, Mindy Hammond, abandoned me almost 15 years ago, and my real dad, Taylor Hammond, became an alcoholic, and I don't know what happened to him. CPS asked my Uncle Ran and his husband, Chance, if they could take care of a 5-year-old girl. They said yes, and changed my life. They adopted me 10 years ago, and I became Anna Summers. I couldn't have achieved anything without their help. She hugged us. Your parents never tried to contact you? The reporter asked. We've tried every number we knew, and Anna searched the internet. We haven't heard from them in 15 years, I said. The news video went viral among the LGBTQ crowd, and the business crowd, and the people who liked heartwarming success stories, and the state senator used clips in his campaign for re-election. The reporter who interviewed Anna made one little mistake in the video. In editing it down to 3 minutes, they cut about 30 minutes of interview, including one very little word that nobody noticed at the time. What was that word? Scholarship. Anna was awarded with a $100,000 scholarship. The edited version claimed she had been awarded with $100,000. For a week or two, Anna was the most popular person in North Carolina. She enrolled in North Carolina University in Chapel Hill and was able to take her classes remotely. She wanted a business degree, but she wouldn't give up on her new business. My little Bluebird had a brain for numbers, just like Chance. I couldn't have been more proud. Seward retired from the Navy, and he and Catriona loved the coast so much that they rented a place not far from ours. Their plan was to see if they liked the area, and if so, they'd eventually buy. Catriona loved helping Anna with the soaps and took over the soap making when Anna had to take care of her classes. Catriona had made similar things when she was a girl, except with candles. It was a stormy Saturday in September. We were having a party, both to celebrate Seward's retirement and he and Catriona moving into a nearby house, and the paperwork concerning Anna's scholarship became official. Starting next semester, everything from now on was covered. We, that is, Chance and I, Seward and Catriona, Chance's parents, who'd flown in from Vegas, Anna and her boyfriend Jacob. I still don't know how I felt about that, but I wasn't going to be the jealous father. We're brainstorming about what to do with the remaining college fund that hadn't been spent. Seward thought Anna should travel the world. Catriona knew of a great place in southern France Anna and her boyfriend could travel to. Chance thought it best to put it into her business. Chance's parents thought it should be saved as a down payment for a future house. Anna's boyfriend, Jacob, almost said that they should save it for their... And then he stopped. Was he about to say honeymoon? Had he almost accidentally proposed? He looked at her the same way I looked at Chance, and Anna shyly looked at him, smiling. What did I want? I looked at my arm, now completely covered with tattoos. I remembered how much fun all of us had going to Disney World, all the fun we had living on the beach. It would be selfish for me to say that I wanted to take all of us to Disney World and rekindle the magic, so I kept quiet, letting the melancholy of lost memories sink in. My little Bluebird had grown up. Chance must have sensed my sadness because he picked up my hand and gently kissed it. We had aged together for 15 years, but those years only made him strikingly handsome. I loved him more with every passing day. Neither one of us were young anymore, but he was still the most beautiful man I knew. Chance was my soulmate, now and forever. I whispered to my love, I love you. What do you want? He whispered. I remembered making mashed potato craters on Annabelle's plate and filling them with gravy. I remembered the scared little girl who was afraid to be alone. I remembered every trip we had taken to Disney World. I remembered the week we had the strangest conversation of our lives. I couldn't stop the tears leaking from my eyes. Something in my gut told me what I needed to do. I got out of my seat and walked to my little Bluebird and her boyfriend. I suspected they had talked about marriage, but he hadn't proposed yet. Something I had learned about myself over the years: I can really make a fool of myself. What's one more time? My life was about to change. Again. I took their hands, placing them together, and asked Jacob, "Will you make my little Bluebird happy?" Anna blushed. It had been a long time since I called her that. "Dad," she whispered, "are you okay?" I nodded and said to Jacob, "Do you love my little Bluebird?" "Yes, sir. I love Anna with all my heart," he said. Anna wiped one of her eyes. Did she know what was coming? "Make sure you take care of her," I said, forcing a brave smile. "You have my blessing. Be happy." "I will take care of her, sir," he said. Suddenly the three of us were hugging, and then Chance joined us. It was about 8 months later. Anna, looking beautiful in white, walked down the aisle to her future husband. I was on one side of her. Chance was on the other. Anna made sure we wore white tuxes because she wanted everybody to know who her dads were. Just as we got to the end of the aisle, just as we were about to give her away, Anna lifted her veil and kissed us. Crying, Anna said, "I have the most amazing dads. Thank you." The end. Thank you for joining me, my friends. I'm Gio, and I'm glad you stopped by my channel. Peace.